Welcome to the Marvel Cinematic University podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Canton III, and we are continuing our Road to Doomsday miniseries as we analyze every corner of the MCU on the road to Avengers Doomsday, which will be in May of 2026. But in the meantime, we've had 2 episodes previous. If you want to check those out, they're on all platforms. The Spider-Man episode was episode 2, and the State of the Avengers was episode 1. This episode, the future of the Black Panther franchise. And happy to get into that with our guests. But first, we got patreon.com/MCUniversityPod where you can get our bonus content, such as the subscriber mailbag, which Jake and I will be recording very soon, and John Wick 3, which we got. And then, of course, the Discord. Any wrestling fans, if you're interested, I'm doing a subscriber mailbag for that subject after Saturday night's main event this Saturday. If you want to get into the Discord and ask some questions, and I'll be happy to answer those this Saturday evening. And appreciate everybody for supporting and being a part of our wonderful Patreon. And in the meantime, with that being said, the super producer and our Everett Ross, Jake Christie. Jake, how are you?
You stole my joke. I was going to say, call me Everett K. Christie this episode, but you beat me to
it. Good to see you, man. And, of course, we leave the key under the mat for him every time he shows back up. Rod, a.k.a. the black guy who tips. Rod, how you doing,
man?
sir?
Thank you for having me. I think I'm wearing the wrong Panthers gear, but I think this is acceptable.
We will consider it acceptable for this episode. And joining us as well, the first time and the last time she was on with us was for our Wakanda Forever review. Happy to have her back on for this episode, Bethany Anderson. Bethany, welcome to the program. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, good to have you. And so it's funny, I originally, when I came up with the idea of the Road to Doomsday, the initial episodes that I came out with, this one was not a part of it. And I think what ended up happening was a couple of weeks ago, there was a rumor that came out regarding the casting of T'Challa. They were going to apparently recast. Now, we don't know if this rumor has a lot of credence to it. You never know from the type of source. But obviously, the internet has ran wild with it. And I think it's just one of those things over the past couple of years that it's been a hot topic as to whether they should recast T'Challa, which is a sensitive subject around that cast and around Ryan Coogler and the Marvel family generally, because of their kinship to Chadwick Boseman and everything that he meant to them, which I totally understand. And I think what ends up happening with these things, and personally, I've generally wanted to stay away from that conversation, but I feel like with everything coming out now, and for the character to be back in the fold in some type of way, I think it was good enough of a time to have a thoughtful and rational conversation about it, which I think we will have here. So I want to start with this. And Bethany, I'll start with you, because I remember when we were talking in Wakanda Forever about, your personal feelings about Chadwick Boseman and how much he means to you personally. In the sense of the Black Panther franchise, considering everything that happened in Wakanda Forever, when we get to T'Challa's son, and it seems like that will be the way that they decided to go. Let's say, for instance, they decide to do this. They decide to recast. How do you feel about that?
I think it's honestly necessary. I actually just went back into my Twitter to go back to a tweet that I had where I talked about the importance of it. So guys, if you don't mind, I'm going to read a tweet where I touched on this. It says, well, I said, Chadwick worked so hard to help create a character that we love. He fought for the integrity of the character and played a huge role in the storyline. It's unproductive not to recast T'Challa, and it's a diss to the amazing foundation that Chadwick laid for T'Challa. He was very, very integral in the guy that we fell in love with on that screen. So I think it's honestly a disservice to everyone who fell in love in the hard work that he really put in to developing T'Challa to what we grew to love, to not recast. Like, we have to get somebody back in there.
Rod, what do you think about that?
So when it was time for Black Panther 2, I was against it because he's a human being and those people lost a real part of their lives and friendship, and it just felt like I felt like that would be the most like corporate way to handle it. Like, hey man, next man up, just like,
Yeah.
and I felt like that would feel very callous, and I'm sure that Ryan Coogler and them thought about that much longer than us as fans thought about it, right? But the way they ended it, I always felt like they would at some point, because T'Challa as a character is integral to the Marvel universe. Like, and it is a character, it is a part. I'm not like delusional or whatever. So I just figured a time would come when they would start considering that. It just was literally too soon. Like, it just life is like that. If you guys have had anyone pass,
Yeah.
but it makes sense now, and now's the time to start thinking about it. That movie's probably a ways away. If you're going to do something, you did set it up with his son, and it's comic books. You can do all kinds of time travel, grow up, come back, whatever type of
Yeah.
stuff. So like, it's built into the universe that you can do something like that. The discussion over who will be, I'm sure, will be fun and eye rolling all at the same time over the next few years or whatever, and
Yes.
that'll be interesting. But yeah, now I think now is the time to broach the discussion. I felt like it was a discussion that just people were rushing to in a way that felt
Yeah.
almost callous, where it's like, Chadwick Boseman dies. Yeah, but who gonna play Black Panther? It's like, whoa. None of us saw this coming. I know it really had to hurt, because that though Ryan Coogler's like his friend. You know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
you're making this movie, and he didn't tell you he's going through this struggle, and you have to ration that. And then the other thing is, I thought Black Panther 2 was such an amazing feat. Like, I love that movie. And part of the reason I love it is because of the fact that Ryan Coogler and them leaned into the idea of like Shuri and the women of Wakanda and Ramonda. Like they really leaned heavy into like, no, the women of Wakanda matter. Like, these are characters that can hold their own movie. This isn't just because it got a little misogynistic in some of these discussions. This isn't just the like black man king. That's not what the first movie is about, and it's definitely not what the second movie has to be about. Is the black man is king and he's going to tell these women what to do. And so of all the people that can handle it with like some level of like passion and thought and tact, I think Ryan Coogler and the people are and those guys are the ones to do it.
It's kind of what Bethany spoke to earlier, in the sense that Chadwick laid the groundwork for everything. I think part of the reason why the second movie works so well is because of the way that he allows the first movie to build up all of these characters around him. I think I've said this before, but I felt like for him in that movie, the original Black Panther, he played it understated in a way where it felt like he was letting everybody shine around him, and it was so cool to see. And it allowed somebody like Letitia Wright to kind of elevate herself to have a what I thought was a great performance in Wakanda Forever. Obviously, Angela Bassett, what can you say about her? She continues doing what she does and had a great performance as well. So it allows everybody to kind of, be a conduit of that energy that he provided. And to both of your points, elevate the entire franchise on its own. So I think that's a very fair point. I do want to get to like the reaction portion of it in a second, but I do want to hear Jake's thoughts on it. Go ahead, Jake.
So yeah, I think that because I'm very sensitive to the realities of these movies being made, and that like, you know, I wouldn't. I definitely think that they could not have done Black Panther 2 and then just had T'Challa there and have him take off the mask and it's someone else and they just act like it's the same character. That just no, but like because that's what I mean. That's what they're gonna do with Thaddeus Ross, but it's different. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's a different thing. And I think that like, however, I think that you guys are right that they have the opportunity now to have another T'Challa, but I think that whether they use his son, whether they use some other weird doohickey, I think that they need to kind of separate it in some way from Chadwick's performance, just not for the narrative reason, but because I don't think you can burden the character and whoever the actor is with needing to be the same character. Like, even though this is cheap and I normally don't like this, if it's a T'Challa from another universe, then it's fine. I mean, like, well, I think that these are all like dumb shortcuts normally, but I
Yeah.
don't think for the actor and for the movie, I don't think you can have it just be like he somehow comes back and it's supposed to be the exact same character, because that is, you're both going to have people who are like not into the idea of having someone else play the character, be mad about it, and then you're also going to have people who are really into the idea of recasting the character, being like, well, he's not living up to what Chadwick did. And so I think that the MCU has the opportunity, because it's comic book storytelling, and as Rod alluded to, there's so much BS you can get into, that there are ways for them to square the circle of having a character be T'Challa, because I think you do need that central point. Like, when I was actually was rewatching Wakanda Forever last night, and I'm like, this is a really good movie, but it's actually like not that great of a movie for setting up the idea of a Black Panther character moving forward, because that's not what its goal is. And I do think you do need a centralized character for these characters to, be around, and someone to wear the Black Panther mantle. And obviously Shuri did that at the end of the movie, but I think having a character like T'Challa, so Shuri, because I think Shuri's actually best when she's playing off of a T'Challa type.
Yes.
I think that that's important. And so I trust Ryan Coogler to square that circle, because I think that they are aware of all the conversations that we're having and how necessary that character is, and they've given themselves multiple opportunities to make it right. And so I think that, like, now is the time if you're going to do it, especially because you can introduce them. You can introduce a new T'Challa in a bigger team up movie. That the whole thing doesn't need to be on his back. I think if you make Black Panther 3 about like introducing a new T'Challa,
Yeah.
to start, that could be a problem, because the whole movie is going to be about the whole. And I think so if you use these couple years to kind of slow roll it out, I think you can make everyone happy. Not everyone happy, because it's a comic book movie. No, not everyone's gonna be happy. But you
No, that's
cannot.
for
You
sure.
can keep the amount of unhappy people down.
Yes, Bethany, I see you, the wheels are turning. What you got on your mind?
So first of all, I've seen Wakanda Forever once. Went to the
Wow.
theater to see it, and I left it right there. I don't know. It was something so sad and disheartening about that film. I was like, I don't need to revisit this. It's like they gave Chadwick and T'Challa a funeral, and it just seemed so
Yeah.
final, to the point where I was like, I don't want to see this again. Like, I saw it solo, but I had my dad take my son to go see it, because I just didn't want to see that again. So, I was just thinking about how dark that film was, and also losing Queen Ramonda as well. So I'm like, where do we go? Like, we've lost so much. Like, so what's next? Do we just completely start fresh? How do we reintroduce this character? Like other, franchises have had multiple Batmans and Supermans or whatever. What do we do? Like, even James Bond has had multiple people come in and play him. We just need to wipe everything clean and start over.
I think what's interesting about it, and now I can get into the reaction portion of this, is, and I realized this as I was thinking about it today, the kinship that people have to T'Challa, not only the movie character but just the comic book character generally. The first time I was given a Marvel comic book was by my mom when I was 5 years old. This big red Marvel book. I've told this story before, but in that book, there's a bunch of stories: Spider-Man, X-Men, Wolverine, all those things. But there's this Fantastic Four issue, and it's the introduction of Black Panther. And I always remember seeing this Black Panther outsmart the Fantastic Four, and this character immediately I was drawn to. So I can imagine so many other young black kids being drawn to that character in the very same way. So as we've gone along, and the recast and do this and can you do that, to a degree, I could understand why people are so vociferous about it, because they really want this character. There's a genuine love of the character. But I also want to examine why it feels like it just got so out of control. And out of control to what Rod was talking about with the misogynistic element of it, um, what I personally feel about the callousness of the after Chadwick's death, it's like, all right, whatever, let's go to the next thing, which I get people do, but I think there was a different level of it that just felt so soulless to me
Mm.
that it genuinely bothered me. So that's why I've always felt with the Wakanda Forever situation and how they handled it, and I feel like, Bethany, you make a great point. That movie is a kind of is it's a funeral.
Yes.
It is a movie of mourning. Like, you can get past like all the stuff. It was one of the few times in a Marvel movie where I just didn't care about what they were building to with Ironheart necessarily, what they were building to with Namor, as good of a character
Right.
and interesting of a character as he is. You didn't care about that because of the feeling that you felt when the title card comes up, the Marvel thing, and all they're showing is the Chadwick stuff. So on an emotional level, I'm like, I'm having a hard time with this. And then also, I'm finding myself very disturbed by people's reactions to it, because it's like, where did this come
I
from?
don't think that's a specific thing with the recast Child, though. I think that there's a way that these big franchises have led their fans to believe that it is a two-way
Hmm.
street. That's really that they're making demands. It feels like they're making demands of the studio as opposed to like interacting with them. Like,
Mm.
because I noticed it with it's obviously it's more acute here because it's like someone
Yeah,
died and it's real.
Right.
But I you just see now the way that people talk to studios, they talk as if they are executives making demands,
Yeah.
and
yeah,
that's that. And I think the callousness of it is magnified in this situation, but like it feels it's my least favorite thing about fandom, where people have the studios have coddled their fans into believing that they
Yeah.
have a say.
I think
yes,
also
yeah,
also it got toxic because a lot of fandom is toxic now. Like, so you
yes,
got people with YouTube channels that just, they're making the YouTube guy face. They're very upset. And in the background, it's like Brie Larson or something. It's like, why I hate Brie Larson, 12 reasons. Yeah. Like Marvel again or whatever, right? And so we all know that that is like the currency of attention to a certain demographic of people. And I think it sucks enough when it's just, I don't like this character, I don't like this, that why DEI or whatever, it like that sucks enough. But when it's like an actual person who died, it just, there's like an extra level of like, whoa, maybe everything's not content yet, and like I
yeah.
remember the night I heard Chadwick died. Like my history with Chadwick thing goes way back, dog. I'm on the record for this. This is 100% facts. I was the first person that was like, Chadwick Boseman should play Black Panther, and I said it coming out of Jackie Robinson 42. I tweeted it at the
Okay.
time. I was like,
I thought you were gonna say
this
you said it come
man,
out of the Express and be like,
no,
"Whoa, Rock."
no, coming out of 42. I said this man has the best racism eyes I've ever seen in my life. And that shit is T'Challa. I said that's T'Challa, bro. Like that, like the thing about T'Challa that I loved as a character is like that man will look Captain America straight in his face, like, bro, we're not on the same level. Like I know why you think you're on the same levels because you're a white dude, but I promise you, we are not peers, right? And so I was like, he should be it. And I started like this like joke on our podcast about it and everything. And then they casted him, and we had a whole episode where I kept playing No Flex Zone and was partying and shit. So it felt like Marvel, like Kevin Feige was following me on Twitter when they announced that shit. And so when he died, I remember sitting on my couch feeling like cold. Like just like I curled up into a ball. It just was like, what the fuck is life? You know what I mean? And so and I wasn't even thinking about like I wasn't like, and what are you gonna do for Black Panther? I was thinking like, fuck, man, this guy was 40 something. He was like
Yeah.
young, up and coming, really just starting to blossom into the star that he was gonna be. Because Chadwick was playing like everybody at that time. It was like Thurgood
Hmm.
Marshall and like he was just in everything, dog. And so like it was a profoundly sad moment, and I think the filmmakers, I thought, was like, you guys have a Herculean task that is impossible. They're gonna want you to make a movie to please everybody, and you can't, because there's just you recast them. There's just another section of people that's pissed off. You don't recast them. There's another section of people that are pissed off. If you acknowledge he's dead, indistinct, there's people who are gonna be mad at you acknowledging that this character died. But also, that's y'all's man's. Like, y'all were the ones on set. I wasn't. So I can't imagine like the level of acting you need to have to be like, all right, guys, Idris Elba is Black Panther now. Let's just go out and film this shit like nothing happened. Like, I can't
that
even
was the biggest thing for me.
I couldn't even imagine. Like, and I think the humanity of it got lost because it just became like a nerd debate. And nerd debates are very technical. It's very inhumane how we discuss it, right? It's very just, this thing wouldn't have happened. Her power level isn't high enough, whatever, as opposed to just like, yo, for a second. I honestly think it was such a feat and probably one of the like wildest decisions that Marvel made that never really seemed to get the credit it deserved. They really let Ryan Coogler have a funeral for a dude.
Yes.
And that's something that if everyone would have told you before that like, no, it's a corporation. They're just going to go get the fucking money, keep this shit rolling. Like, we don't have time for sad. We can't sell sad. We have to sell happy, upbeat. The future's coming. And they didn't. Yeah, they literally said, we're going to reckon with actual death in this thing, which is kind of interesting coming out of like the snap and Thanos and all that stuff. Like, no, this is what felt like death. Like, this felt like, this. Yeah. And I think it's why, as Bethany said, this is not a movie I sit in time rewatching. This is a movie where I was like, that was like I am never going to my uncle's funeral twice. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, all right, we did that. I thought it was well done. I thought it was smart, all that stuff. But it was like, we did that. This isn't like the other movies where it's just like, and I want to experience it again. I don't want to experience it again. And and I think the reason you have funerals is to move on. And so I think recasting is when you like, I actually think it only works to recast him now because you did that. I think in this world where you make a movie where it's just like, listen, man, we gotta get this money, next man up. I think we'll never know because we haven't experienced that multiverse. But I feel like there's a multiverse where it literally kills the MCU because people are like, what the fuck? Like, someone died and y'all just showed up like, Wakanda Forever, it's me, Tyrese, and just kept fucking moving.
I really think I actually think that the recast T'Challa for Wakanda Forever crowd, I think definitely was smaller than the don't. They're just louder. Yeah. Like, I actually think that the majority of people didn't want them to recast at the time. Yeah. Now I think it's changed because of the stuff we discussed, but I think it was like, I think you're right. I think it would have pissed off a lot of people. And I also think that it would have had a thing that Marvel has really avoided, which is like a big clash within a writer-director. You have stories leaking out that Ryan Coogler didn't want to recast. Like, if that happens, then that poisons the movie.
Yeah. Yes. Well, speaking of leaks, Denzel Washington revealed that he was going to be have a part written for him for Black Panther 3, and he wasn't supposed to, to let that out. Yeah. Hey, I feel like that brought on the talks of like, okay, so we got to recast T'Challa if we're going to have Denzel in the next movie.
Also, old ass Denzel not giving a fuck is my favorite version of Denzel. Denzel just being interviews, just saying stuff. Like, whoa, like he don't care no more. He's like, I was supposed to kiss a man in Gladiator, but they cut it out. talk to Ridley Scott. And like, what? Was this even in the script?
No, I mean, I believe the best quote he had is when he randomly offered up that he once smoked crack, but quote never got strung out on dope.
Oh yeah.
No, he told a guy he would have been the one to rob him coming out the movie theater. I was like, Denzel is wilding right now. I love it, but shout out to him.
I'm leaving here with something, okay?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I totally forgot about that aspect of things. And I remember when Denzel said it at the time, like my first thought was like, God damn.
Yeah.
Damn. That would have been great.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
A surprise, right? Just to have him show up on screen in the next film. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not. It's that part, but honestly, it's going back to Like, damn, I miss
Chadwick.
Chadwick. If he was there,
And
the
he let
relationship
Chadwick sleep
those
on his.
two had,
Yep.
like, yeah,
Let that man sleep on his
yeah.
couch, bro. Like, man, we lost one, bro. But yeah, but once again, I feel like we can move on because they did
Yes, we
that,
can.
as opposed to just not acknowledging it. This is not Thaddeus Ross character time. This
Can I
it
throw something
means
out?
something to people.
Can I throw an idea out that I just thought of?
Yeah, go
What if
ahead.
we use the multiverse and Denzel plays an old version of T'Challa in another multiverse? How do you feel?
If it's like if they did that, like,
and then how about this? And then John David plays the younger version of him.
No,
oh wow,
no.
Oh, that's
not
right.
John David.
No, John David.
Rod
No,
don't
John
fuck
David.
with
Not John David,
JTW.
I like John David
okay.
in some stuff, but he
don't
actually the
fuck
thing
with
that he's good at, I think, is like the throwaway
Is-
lines. He doesn't have gravitas, which
Yeah,
is fine for
right.
some stuff.
John David playing a younger version of his dad works because that's how he feels and talks.
Yeah.
But just in general, as like, and now he's T'Challa, I feel like I think we
No,
can move
John
on.
David Washington's best line he's ever said on screen is "I ordered my hot sauce an hour ago," which is a funny line and is not a T'Challa line.
My favorite John David line is with the right white man. Anything is possible in
That's
Black
true, that's also a good
Klansman.
line. Neither of those are T'Challa lines.
Yeah, no, he can't do. No, if he does that shit in Wakanda, we're gonna
No.
burn the fucking.
No.
We're gonna burn the
No.
theater down.
I'm just, but I am trying to think about like what do
Yeah.
we want to see Denzel do in a Black Panther movie?
Man, given old sage advice, like I feel like that's how I imagine the role for him being, as somebody advising T'Challa on how to move in a certain situation. I wouldn't actually want him to oppose him as a villain. Like, would love like he was like one of them dudes in Wakanda with some high ranking person that we ain't know about, but he's behind the scenes and he comes in and obviously it's the Denzel gravitas. And
Where he was
it's
in
just-
exile for some reason and he's coming back.
Yes. And T'Challa has to make certain difficult decisions on how to move in a certain situation. And then he goes to whatever Denzel's character is, and then we get one of the monologues. I'd be like, "Ooh, boy." Let me tell you, I think that would cook.
Asked this before. I want to ask Rod and Bethany. Do you guys think that Denzel will try an accent, or do you think he's just going to be from Mount Vernon?
So, okay, I have a theory.
Okay.
Just an idea, just throwing it out there. I think he should be Storm's dad
Oh.
Mr. Monroe.
from New York, so he can let the accent hang out. And we are introduced to Storm, who I think should save T'Challa to introduce him back into the MCU.
I really like that idea, especially because I think with this X-Men thing they're trying to do, they've kind of built in this idea already. Like when at the end of the Marvels, when you get there and they're like, oh wait, this is a actress who played a different character in our universe, and now she's over here in this universe and she's like binary or something. And I'm like, oh, so you can take different characters and be like, yeah, there's over here it's just a little bit different. Like it's familiar, but a little different. And I think that's a great idea for Denzel. He doesn't have to do the act because no, he can't. He should not.
Please, I don't even want to hear
want to
that.
see him try that shit.
And guess what? It didn't matter at all on Gladiator. He was still great.
Right.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, but part of it is like a meta thing where he's great because he's Denzel.
Exactly.
And so I think you write the part to Denzel's strengths if I was them. Because I don't want to see him as a Wakandan professor doing Denzel. It just feels weird.
Imagine him like pulling his lip down and he has a no, thank you.
The first time he walks up to T'Challa and says, "My man," I'm gonna be like, "See, they don't even talk like that. They don't even talk like that over there." Then, like, I still like having Gladiator 2 is funny to me because Denzel was doing Denzel shit.
Yes.
Like
It's
I
the
don't
best,
need that in my Wakanda, dog. I take my
No.
Wakanda real serious.
Although
I don't give a fuck about Rome. Like you can read a newspaper, you can tell somebody to hose this man down, and I won't even blink an eye because it's Denzel. But if he's in Wakanda talking like that, nah, bro.
Oh man, that's Rod. Oh, you're the best, man.
Another quote I just remembered
Yes.
from the press tour is Denzel saying, "I'm putting this dress on, these rings, and I'm going crazy."
See, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like
he
that
on
shit
it.
worked for Ridley Scott. I don't give a fuck about Ridley Scott's continuity in the Gladiator
No,
franchise.
and you know who doesn't care about the continuity in the Gladiator franchise either? Ridley Scott.
Right, exactly. I don't even think they wrote Denzel lines, dog. I think
I
they
don't
just
think-
told him what the scene
if
was
you
like.
if you
Herb.
Denzel definitely came up with my favorite line of his in the movie, which is when Paul Mescal is not speaking and he says, "It's fine. Violence is a universal language."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Denzel came up with that
I
shit.
want to see the outtakes because I know he's like just saying shit like, you know what I told the Emperor wrong before this? Fat meat is crazy, but you gonna find out. And it's like, no, cut that one. That's Denzel. Just say the shit we told you to say.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man, but yeah, so like we have that Denzel piece hanging out there, and then so if we bring T'Challa back, what well I'll let you guys throw out some casting stuff in a little bit, but just like for the sake of the movie itself of what a Black Panther movie the next one would look like per se. So we obviously had the Talocan with Namor and that whole situation, and then Shuri seemed like she went off and was kind of doing her own thing, and we have young T'Challa. So we still have young T'Challa in the mix. So depending on how they decide to do this, this is where it gets interesting because this is like what Jake said with we could do the multiverse thing, or we could find a way to age up young T'Challa to a certain point where perhaps he's like on the verge of adulthood or something along those lines. There's a lot of different ways that they could go with this. I say, Bethany, what would you say is what you would do if you had the pen stroke? How would you write it?
You know, T'Challa was actually in hiding.
Okay.
I don't know what to do with the sun piece. When I saw that at the end of the film, I was just like, okay, so what are we doing? Like, when are we going to be able to get T'Challa, you know, as a grown man out here? Are we going to have a new series where we have a young Black Panther for the younger audience? Like, what do we do with that? But I lean into the whole Storm aspect of her, you know, rescuing him and bringing him back to Wakanda.
I think the sun piece was always going to be a part of it because Coogler said, because I went and listened to that till they did the Black Panther podcast.
Right.
And Coogler talked about the original story was T'Challa after the snap and not knowing that he had a son and then dealing with that revelation and figuring out not only parenting, but this crisis against Namor. So that would have been a great story. So I feel like the son was always going to be a part of the conversation in some ways.
But was he going to be T'Challa Junior? You know what I mean?
That's the thing. Yeah. I wonder if they kind of streamlined it because of and then made it that specifically
right
for that post credit stinger. And I think that's the thing. That's the thing about that. That one really got to me because I just was like it hits you like a ton of bricks at the end.
Yeah, dog.
So
that's part of the reason that's part of the reason I don't rewatch that movie because I cried like a motherfucker when that little kid came out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, he kind of looked like Chadwick too. And then when I was like, it was before they said his name, and I was like, they gonna say his name T'Challa. And they said it, I was like, I just went down, bro. I was like, yeah, I can't be just playing this one on a rewatch. I gotta watch this shit when I need to cry or something.
Yeah, it's a whole ugly cry situation.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sorry, I forgot the question. It was
if you had like the pen stroke, like how would you what would intrigue you, Rod, in terms of what type of story you'd want to put together?
So first of all, by the time this shit come out, that kid might be grown. Right, I don't we cannot take that out of the equation because these movies ain't been coming out exactly when they say they coming out no more, and it seems like it depends on critical reception to some extent. I think
Black Panther was early.
It was, which, you know, I think Ryan and them gonna get their thing done. I just don't know if everybody else is gonna keep holding up the
The
ship.
machine.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
you
Yeah,
always
like
got you always got to worry about with them. It's the machine.
yeah,
You
they've
always
been
got to worry
Only
moving
so
about
them
much
the
dates
studio
machine.
space in
around.
Atlanta.
Yeah, they've
Yeah.
been moving them dates around the last couple of years and be like, you know what? And then Blade gon', you know what? Not actually Blade, hold up. We not ready for you yet. So and also I think, you know, Ryan and them probably would want to release it when it's right, you know.
Mhm.
But anyway, I think the Doom War is a very good like entry point as far as
Mhm.
like some of the stuff
Oh, I
they were
love
even
that
setting
movie.
out because you had setting up because you know you had like Atlantis versus Wakanda already. Um, and then in the comic, you find out like Doom is behind this thing. Shuri was the Black Panther at the time of the Doom War. And
Right.
T'Challa was like in hiding, and then once and he because he got fucked up and he was healing. And he started doing all this like mystical shit instead of technology and stuff.
Mhm.
So like you could kind of build in some like, yo, T'Challa was around. He just strategically did not need everybody to know what he was up to or whatever. Or even if you go multiversal and be like, well, in this universe, this is what happened, and this you have enough of the notes in the original universe to go, okay, we kind of know what was happening over here. So Atlantis also had a war with them over here, and this T'Challa survived that war, and this T'Challa is coming into this universe, and the X-Men are over here. So you got Storm over
Yeah.
here. Like there's a lot of threads to build it. I think the hardest part is gonna be I would if I was them, I would want a lot of this introduction to happen in other movies before you get to my Black Panther movie. So that I'm not doing so much setup, but just that like, okay, we laid the groundwork with this Doom shit. You kind of saw like Doom was manipulating Atlantis, he was manipulating Wakanda, whatever. Boom, T'Challa's back. We're just hitting the ground running. We've already cast the actor and we're ready to go. But like I said, a lot of this stuff is not gonna be up to Ryan Coogler's movie. I think it's gonna be up to the MCU because that's the thing, man. People that were disappointed in this latest phase of the MCU, I think they still haven't recognized how important T'Challa was. Like
Yeah.
he was the one. Chadwick Boseman was who they were gonna hand this off to. Like it was
Yep.
gonna be
Front and center.
yeah, Chris Evans is gone, Robert Downey Jr. is gone, but we got one of them motherfucking ones, dog. Like this shit was like Lynn Bias dying or some shit, where it's like
Yeah.
we're handing the league off to this superstar. Uh-oh, shit. We gotta wait for Michael Jordan to pop. Like that.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like with T'Challa dying like that, and with Chadwick dying like that. So it's gonna be hard if they can ever even truly recover from that. But I think you know they have the pieces to be able to do it.
So, for the purposes of a Black Panther movie, so I gotta ask you, Jake, as in this instance, you would be the DEI hire. What
Sure.
would you?
So
How would you go about
so
this?
I think that mine is not gonna have T'Challa like being in hiding or something, just because I don't want to. I want the reactions to the deaths to still be real. Like I don't want to have to undo those. So I think this is such a dumb plot, and you might laugh at me, but my thought is okay. The thing that clearly set up really well in Wakanda Forever is the whole idea of the whole world, basically like it feels like the lead up to the Iraq War, where they keep being like, we should maybe attack Wakanda. Maybe we should
Yeah.
attack Wakanda. I'm getting some intel that we should attack Wakanda, and so I think you can imagine a version where like the whole world is basically bearing down on Wakanda, and you could even say like Doom's partly behind it. And for some reason or another, they need a new, T'Challa. And I'm just pulling this. I didn't watch a lot of anime growing up, but I did watch a good amount of Dragon Ball Z. Some vibranium hyperbaric time chamber. Have the young T'Challa train for like a decade or something, or like, and then he comes out and he's an adult. I think
Some
that is
montage.
Oh
Yeah.
wow!
vibranium hyperbaric time chamber. That is my solve.
Well, there's also just like a lot of bullshit you can do. Like you can have him go off into the spirit plane, and then like, oh, we lost him in the spirit plane. He comes out as a grown ass man. It's like, whoa, he spent this much time. Like you could listen, comic books and bullshit like this. You know what I mean? Like just make some shit up. You don't have to.
Exactly.
You don't have to have a real reason. You just have to have a reason that works in the MCU. So yeah, time chamber, all that shit could work. It's just I think the most important thing is gonna at this point be nailing that feeling of like getting T'Challa back and whoever the actor is nailing that role to a point where people are like, honestly, I'm just glad he's back. And then we're
Yeah.
just partying off of it.
And taking seriously whatever route they take in order to bring him back, taking seriously the way that would emotionally impact the other characters. If
Yeah.
it's something like Bethany suggested where he was laying low for some reason or another, Shuri needs to be livid at him. Needs to be, you weren't
Yeah.
there when our mother died. This is horrible, which is kind of why I'm not that in
Yeah.
favor of that idea, because I don't really want to see that. But if they do that, that's what they have to do. If it's from a multiverse, Shuri needs to be really fucked up. Like, I don't know how to deal with seeing my brother. Why did he get to live, but my brother didn't get to live? Or if it's his son, it's like, how do I deal with the fact that, you know, he's stepping into the place of my brother and it feels like he's, you know, replaced? Like, how do I deal with those things? You need to take seriously. I think that's when the MCU is at its best, is when it takes the comic bullshit that you're talking about, Rod, and is like, we're going to have these characters react to this with the emotional integrity that they would. Because you can do as much bullshit as you want as long as the characters have emotional integrity.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more on that. I think when Rod talks about the comic book BS, like specifically what Secret Wars is probably going to be designed to do by having dying universes and a bunch of characters from other universes fold into one singular one. And I could see that being how an adult T'Challa comes back
Yeah.
and we get that kind of thing going on. And I could see them building off of that, using the elements that you talked about, Jake, with how did this person react to this, and how do they deal with this aspect, but he is a part of the fold. I think that would be to me the best way to go about it without too much funkiness, because again, it's comic book, so wild shit can happen all the time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I am on it. But it's very thought provoking, because this is just a very complicated situation that they're in, but also with enough solves that there is actually a way to get through it.
And honestly,
So,
like at the end of the day, I think the reaction to him, the treatment of it, and the casting and the character is gonna. That's everyone in real life knows this man died. So there's gonna be people who are gonna be sticklers about it no matter what, and just no matter what they do, gonna be like, this is some bullshit. But yeah, we know it's some fucking movie. Like this, we know that. So whatever they need to do, you got to just rip the Band-Aid off, let people be upset with however you characterize it, and then just from that point on, if he's money on screen, it'll work itself out, because you will have casted a good actor, and that character is so important to people that they will forgive. You know, it's like no one's ever been like, oh, this guy's Superman. No, when you're watching the movie, it's like, if the dude is Superman and he's good, you just stop caring about what the fuck his origin story was a little bit different than the last one. You don't care. Spider-Man, if they nail the origin, you just stop caring after a while once he's on screen. Oh, the webs come out of his arm. Okay, whatever. I'm enjoying the movie now. It's over. So I think they need to rip the Band-Aid off, whatever they're going to do. And if I was Ryan Coogler, I would want them to rip the Band-Aid off in another movie that I'm not responsible for, so they can be mad over there, and then be like, well, all right, well, we already did all that. Come on over here and enjoy y'all some Aldous Hodge or whoever we got.
Speaking of Aldous Hodge and whoever we got, I feel like we could close with this as far as and I've been famous to say I do not like fan casts. They annoy me to no end, because people just, I don't know, it's gotten a little too much for me. But we can make this fun over here. So let's say y'all have one choice, and you say, like, this is my T'Challa. This is who should actually be T'Challa. Bethany, who would you choose?
I'm sorry. I want to get someone brand new that we haven't seen much of, so he doesn't have so much like pressure. Like people talking about Damson Idris, and I'm like, no. Like I've seen him as Franklin Saint. I can't.
Not for that. I don't think.
You know what I mean?
I'm actually glad he said he turned it down. Apparently.
Oh, okay.
He actually said it on Twitter. He said, like, because a bunch of
that was a joke.
I thought he was absolutely being sarcastic.
He said he was being sarcastic because he also said he turned down Bond. That was the joke.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
He was saying like, I've turned down all these roles.
Yeah, I turned everything down. Yeah, but honestly, I want a fresh face, because honestly, like when Chadwick was casted, I consider Chadwick Black famous. I didn't think people were
Yeah,
like, yeah, man,
yeah,
like,
he
okay,
definitely
he's gonna
wasn't famous.
kill it. I want someone that's, kind of under the radar, and this is gonna be their breakout role.
Okay. Okay. Rod, do you have anybody in mind that you would think of, or
I mean, I
are
have a
you in
lot
line
of
with that?
ideas, but many of them are bad ideas that are funny to me.
Yeah, okay.
So that's kind of
Wait
what
a
I get
minute.
paid to
Wait a
do.
minute. Time out. Time out. We need the bad and funny ideas because it's this show.
Well, of course, I always have to go with my number one idea that I always say on this show.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta get Terrence Howard.
Stop.
Do you mind? How does Terrence Howard feel like when he's on the astral plane? What is it like when he interacts with the ancestors?
Wakanda forever, baby. First of all, I'd like to thank the ancestors for having me back here. But the math, if you really think about it, in the astral plane, 1 times 1 should not be 1. How can you take 2 of one thing and still end up with 1? That doesn't even make sense, man.
Great.
And then that way he could get back in the MCU. And that would actually be the best stunt casting, because the last time we saw him was him being like, next time, baby, in Iron Man 1. And so you got, like, now you can also add in, like, the new Rhodey's reaction to the old Rhodey as Black Panther. I mean, there's a lot of ways to go with that one. Obviously, Tyrese is one of the worst ideas we could have.
My God.
Tyrese, that would be the only movie where Black Panther cries more than the audience.
Yeah.
What more do you want from me?
And he don't never know the plan. Instead of T'Challa always being this master, like, planner. Because Tyrese always play roles where the motherfucker doesn't know the plan. And I'm like, how's that possible? You guys are jumping out of a jet, and now you're acting like you woke up in your car 3 seconds ago. Like, what are we doing? That doesn't make fucking sense. You would have been asking questions every step of this plan, Tyrese. So that would be a bad idea. But yeah, I mean, if it's gonna be somebody, I think Bethany has it right. If it would be best to go with somebody that, if you can break an unknown. But I also understand that may even be more difficult for an unknown than for a known. Like, sometimes, like, if you cast a person that people are familiar with their acting and their face and stuff, there's a level of, like, disassociation where it's like, this is not Chadwick. This is this guy's version of T'Challa. But there's so few actors who have managed to get to that point, where you see you see Will Smith. It's Will Smith. It doesn't matter what the fucking movie is. It's Will Smith in The Matrix. It's Will Smith as a con man as well. So maybe you look for somebody like that. Just because Marvel hasn't, like, broken a star in a long time at this point. So they may be looking for a star to take a star's place, as opposed to trying to, like, create one, manufacture one organically, because they've missed a few times at this point. But anyway, it's just at the end of the day, people are just gonna be like, it's woke DEI bullshit. So it doesn't really matter what they do. Like, some people gonna be mad just because they fucking have a Black Panther movie. So, I hope they aren't making decisions based off of how pissed everyone will get. I hope they shoot for the fucking, like, moon and just, this guy killed us in this in his audition, and that's why he's getting the role.
Yeah, the thing you're afraid of is a Brandon Routh situation where he was a complete unknown. Played Superman, and even though it had been decades since there had been a Superman, he was so clearly going for Christopher Reeve, where it was like, this is just the guy who played Superman in the movie that's not the DCU and is not Christopher Reeve. And like, I think that in some ways you need to almost have, like, in my mind, I'm trying to think of, like, stars that, like, have the same build or, like, look as Chadwick. And, like, I think you actually almost need to have someone who has, like, a slightly different build, slightly different look, because you don't want it, especially if it's a new person. Because I think it would be good to have a new person. But if it's a new person who, like, looks a lot like Chadwick and has the same build as him, then I think you're in trouble, because then it's like every single minute thing they do is going to be compared to how Chadwick would have done it. So I think you need to have something where, like,
so
it
you
feels
saying
like they're allowed to
go with like a white guy then, maybe?
Yes. No, because I'm trying to think of, like, my first thought. Because honestly, my first thought was like, okay, who are younger Black stars who I wish would have gotten breaks and haven't? And so I'm like, what about, like, a Trevante Rhodes? But, like, he's nothing like Chadwick. But, like, but that is that even a good thing though? Because he's bigger. He doesn't. And so my point is that, like, I think they should cast someone who has the right vibe and has the right performance, and don't worry about it being like a 1-to-1, because I think that actually would be bad if it just feels like, oh, they cast a guy who, it's like if you ever see like a movie where like a biopic where they cast an actor who just looks a lot like the person, but it's like, wait, they can't act, they're not like the person at all. You don't want that. You don't want a guy who just happens to look like Chadwick.
Yeah, I think all of that's fair. Let me ask, because a lot of people have mentioned Aldous Hodge a lot. Like I feel like that's like the going name. I'll just say my opinion on him is I root for the brother. It's nice to see him get different roles. Like that Cross show on Amazon is a little dark, but it's dark. I can't see anything going on in the show.
It is so
I gotta
dark.
turn the light. I gotta turn the light all the way up.
Fault. That's all Amazon shows, though. I don't know what the fuck is up with that. I just watched Secret Level, and I was like, turn up the brightness. I want to see it, bro. What's going on?
Yeah, but I mean, otherwise, I generally like him in everything that I've seen him in. I just don't know if this is, and I know he wants to play the role. Yeah. He's actually said it. That's been a big part of his.
Well, here's why Aldous Hodge he's on my short list. He got good racism eyes. And that, like, I think people sleep on that shit, bro. But that's a big part of this character. Like, it's like a level of disdain to like, y'all being racist to me, but I'm better than y'all. Like, what? Yeah, and I feel like he got the stature. I could already, like, if you can do this pose where you leaning back, but you looking down at a white person, you can play this role. You're gonna have to play it different than Chadwick. But you already got like 75% of it handled if you got good racism eyes. Some people just don't have it, man. Jonathan Majors don't got it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a great actor, but he don't got good racism eyes. You need that shit, bro.
Good racism eyes is the quote of the pod. Just tremendous.
You know it when you see it, bro. It's like pornography. It's just like, you got it. That man is indignant as shit.
I'm glad that we were able to have a fun, rational discussion about Black Panther. I'm excited for them bringing the character back. I'm looking forward to them bringing the character back. And
wait, I have one more question.
Yeah,
what do y'all think happens with like Shuri and the other characters in this world where T'Challa comes back and gets I'm assuming we're saying he's getting the mantle of Black Panther. Yeah. What does Shuri just walk into the sunset? Does she hand it off? Does he have to earn it? Like, what do y'all think?
I think if they want to do it like the books, let them two battle it out. I really would like to. If it's a different version of T'Challa, and Shuri's like, wait a minute, you're not my brother. Actually, I like that.
Ooh.
You're not my brother.
Civil War. Okay.
Right there.
Now,
okay.
Listen, if you go Wakanda Civil War, in that, I do want to see Denzel be kind of a X-Factor. I want to see him be a bit of a heel, because I feel like if I read T'Challa, I read Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Panther.
Yes.
And I mean, it's amazing, but it's really like heavy and deep, and you got to read all the fucking like, he'd be writing like fucking pages in between the shit where it's like, here's 6 paragraphs on the universities of Wakanda or whatever. But if you read it, it actually makes it better. But like, part of the like Civil War that happened underneath Ta-Nehisi Coates' writing was like the academics taking down the monarchy by being like, yo, we want a fucking democracy. Why the fuck do they just get to be the king? And it was like a good discussion, because it was like, how everyone in Wakanda can't just be cool. Like, it does make sense that there will be people within they're like, I think it's bullshit. You get the heart-shaped herb and you could tell us what the fuck to do. And I can see Denzel chewing it up as like a person that is machinating, almost like he did in Gladiator 2.
Playing both sides, like, right? Yes.
I can see him doing that, man.
I like that.
I think the thing too is, to answer your question, Rod, I think this is actually, I think, where like the meta aspect comes up the most, because like, if Letitia Wright would have built a big career outside of these movies, I would have a very different answer. I think that she's just going to be around because I think that she's going to want to keep being relevant to be in these movies. I think similarly, like Winston Duke, I think, has built more of a career than her, but I think he's still going to want to be around. Whereas like Lupita is probably only going to be in the Black Panther movies and then not really be involved because she has, shit she's doing. Right. And so I think that like, and with the MCU, I think it's valuable to have characters that are kind of on the board. And so, like, however this all resolves, I think that both, actually not both, but at least one of them, Baku or Shuri, is going to be around as like not quite a Wong level always around character, but a character that can pop up and be useful because. Like Letitia Wright is someone who like was, you know, not really a known commodity at all before this, hasn't, like I said, really done a ton outside of it. And so I think that she's someone who you could expect to be around, to be willing to sign like a 10-picture contract.
Also with the Ironheart thing, are they still doing the series? They're still doing the series of Ironheart, right?
Ironheart's coming out in June.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wonder if we'll see Shuri in that, because they had a really strong bond during that thing. And then the other thing is, if they could find a way without, like, I'm sure they don't want to reset the growth of the character of Shuri, like, because obviously that could be a little tired. But if they do find some kind of way where she is the Black Panther, but she just be going ham on people, and it makes it so like T'Challa needs to come get this fucking mantle because she's crashing out, I could get behind that, because that, like, she was fucking Namor up, and and I like the way she played it, because, you know, anger is part of grief, and that felt like that's what kept me tied into that movie, was like Shuri. A lot of stuff with Shuri and Ramonda was just so good. So yeah, it would reset the character a little bit to have her still be angry, because she kind of ends it in a healthier place of like, maybe I shouldn't just fuck people up for no reason. But if she's like a overzealous leader, I think it gives you an avenue to where you're still rooting for T'Challa to take the mantle, and not just because he's T'Challa, and not just because like I need a dude to be Black Panther, but because it's like, yo, maybe she's not the one to be doing all this shit. She about to go to war with the world. So I would love to see that.
Yeah, especially if the governments, I mean, if, as brought up before, the governments play a role, the
gotta
theft
bring
of
back
vibranium.
my guy Richard Schiff. Sorry, that's just for the white character actor appreciators who are listening.
salute to Richard Schiff. But yeah, I think
you know what, they built in a reason for her to crash out, because they do want the vibranium. So it would make sense for her to be,
and
like,
they have this uneasy alliance with Namor and the Talican. So
it would totally
like,
make
I
sense.
don't think that can just go. Yeah, I don't think that alliance can go away. And we know that Namor is also working behind the scenes to undermine that alliance at the same time.
Right.
So there's a lot of threads. Like, that's the best part about this, is there are a lot of interesting threads that you can pull at, where you can make this movie be good. And if it's Ryan Coogler doing it, I have a lot more confidence in him than I would in anybody else doing this and continuing to world build at the same time. So I feel better now after having this conversation, talking about Black Panther.
Same. Me too. This is fun.
Yeah,
I normally don't do these Black Panther talks, but this was worth it, guys.
I mean, just the fact that we got a Terrence Howard, I was hoping. All right, can we actually briefly discuss the joke about Michael Irvin being Black Panther?
Oh my God, my guy, the M1 series on
that
Twitter.
Was so funny. I just want to mention it.
Listen, I can't stand his obsession with Tipsy Bartender, but besides that, he's a good dude. He's a good dude.
Oh my God!
But yeah, that Michael
when they were
Irvin
showing those clips from him on Fox Force 1, where he's like, "We're losing recipes," but they're like, "This is gonna be him trying to rally the troops in Wakanda." I was dying
when Namor does a sneak attack. Now everybody is seeing.
When they're fighting in Liberia, when it was cold out there, it was cold.
The Michael Irvin, shout out to that, and shout out to the Black Panther franchise.
God, we need one more season. We need one more season of What If, just for the What If Michael Irvin was Black Panther.
The thing is, I will say, this whole conversation, I think, would have a much different tenor if it was like, if Black Panther 3 was going to be directed by some young director coming off his third film, and he could, you know what I mean? Like, if this was not someone who, like, Ryan Coogler has the power to not let stupid shit happen. Yeah. And I feel like if this was like Ryan Coogler was it was his first movie away from the franchise, I feel like we'd all feel very differently. Like, we would not trust them to make a smart decision. And so thank God he's coming back for this.
Yes. And he did the podcast that let you know his inner workings when he was doing it. So like Marvel really gave him a lot of like control, which
They trust him as much as any director. I mean, I would say the
Yeah.
most probably.
I mean, look, you make $1 billion fucking movie.
Okay.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
like a movie
billion-dollar
that
movie in
a movie
February.
that like 4 years before they were like,
Yeah.
no one wants to see a Black Panther. We're not even gonna make this shit. And he's like, I got you guys. Don't y'all just sit back.
Yeah, man. It is pretty incredible. Like I really do think if they could, I'm sure Feige would probably want to use him for like the bigger stuff. But you know, the dude's a creative dude. He has other things. We got Sinners coming out soon. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
That should be fascinating with the whole vampire element. But for purposes of this discussion, this was a lot of fun. I want to thank our guests for joining us. First, Bethany, thank you for coming back for this one.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Where can we find you, follow you, all of those wonderful things? I'm
on Instagram. Sometimes I pop up on Twitter. I'm never going to call it the other name. But
no,
I'm just reading and, just engaging with some folks here and there. At Love Queen B across platforms. That's where I'm at. And on TikTok, I'm kind of doing a little bit over there too at Vegas Bethany.
Bethany.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us once again. And Rod, as always, where can we follow you, my brother?
First of all, one last fan casting T.I. as T'Challa. T.I. Challa.
T.I. from Takers.
Right. He start using big words he don't know what they mean.
T'Challa, you need to put on the mask. You can't wear a fedora. People will see your face.
I just feel like indubitably, expeditiously. Like, what? What are you talking about, T'Challa? You can find me. The Black Guy Who Tips is our podcast. We do it 5 days a week. Just everywhere you get podcasts, search The Black Guy Who Tips. You can also find me on social media. On Twitter, I'm Rodimus Prime. I think I'm Rodimus Prime on Blue Sky as well. And those are the only places you really need to find me. I mean, honestly, my Instagram is just me coming out the gym over and over. So, it's really nothing else going on over
Rod
there.
Smiling coming out of the gym. You follow him?
Yes.
Just me documenting every day. Like, hey guys, did it again. Can't believe it. Well, who would have thought? We're here.
Wonderful, man. Pleasure as always. Jake, how about you, sir?
You can follow me on Twitter at the J Christie. I'm on Blue Sky at J Christie, and on TikTok at the J Christie. I'm also on YouTube and everything with the Museum of Twitter. Just did my 200th episode today. Really exciting. Got 50,000 followers on TikTok.
Nice.
So congrats. How many followers?
50,000 on TikTok.
Woo! Lord Jesus,
boy,
I know your comments be crazy.
Now, of course, because the TikTok algorithm is fickle, today's episode basically didn't get put out to anyone because I did one about, it was Rod, I did the one about the guy who was complaining about racism against white people and said that he was called Mayonnaise Boy. And the TikTok algorithm did not appreciate that because I guess if you talk about racism too much, they don't boost it. But whatever.
It's Trump's America now. Racism don't exist.
You got. Sometimes I'm like the algorithm is not going to like this one, but people watch me for the integrity.
Yeah, I appreciate you, brother. Integrity warrior, our Evan Ross.
I just imagine putting Jake in Everett Ross's position in the first movie, in the cockpit shooting them planes. That's great. Salute to you, Jake. Salute to Museum of Twitter. It is a wonderful series. And salute to Chadwick. Yes. God bless. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at AnthonyCanton_3. On Blue Sky, Anthony Canton 3. Follow the show on all platforms at MC University Pod. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're in the midst of doing the contest for a free ticket to Captain America: Brave New World. Goodness gracious, we're like 3 weeks away from that. That's coming up. So if you send the account on any of the platforms, our social, send a screenshot of your YouTube subscription or send it to me, you have an opportunity to win a free ticket to that movie. And yes, we will definitely be discussing that one in a couple of weeks. So looking forward to that. In the meantime, thanks everybody for listening and supporting. For Rod and Bethany and Jake, I am Anthony Canton III. This has been Marvel Cinematic University on the road to Doomsday. We'll talk to you next time.